Hi, my name is Melissa McMahon, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about teaching from rest. Everything that I'm saying here is from Sarah MacKenzie's book, Teaching from Rest, A Homeschooler's Guide to Unshakable Peace. And I highly recommend this book, both to people who've been doing it for a long time and for people who are brand new, because those of us who've been homeschooling for a while need that refresher, and people who are brand new can start off on a great track if you can start off with this book and with some of the principles from it. So I'm speaking from the perspective, surprisingly, of somebody who's been homeschooling for a while. We started 12 years ago with our oldest. She's now a senior, and I can't believe that because it's been so fast. Every year we've taken homeschooling as a year by year and child by child decision, and here we are in our last year with our oldest child. I don't know that all of mine will continue to be homeschooled, but so far so good, and it's been a great blessing to our family. But in part because I read this book when it came out about 5 years ago, and I've just made it a yearly reread just for encouragement and for a recentering and a refocus of my mind. So I hope that it's encouragement to you who might have been homeschooling for a while, and I hope it's an encouragement to you who might just be looking at homeschooling or just exploring it or trying to get your feet wet and see if it might be a good fit for your family. So I think it can encourage all of us. I wish I could be doing this in person, but I'm thankful for Emily and for her efforts to try to encourage the local homeschooling community, and hopefully someday I can meet you in person. And if you would like any assistance, I'm always open to talking to people online or on the phone or in person someday. So I hope that what I have to say is encouraging to you, and I'd be happy to continue this conversation any way we can. So her book is divided into 3 sections, and I'm not going to have any original thought. I'm just going to go through what she has said to hopefully encourage you to read it for yourself and to spark some ideas for you. The first part, she talks about whose well done are you working for? And she is speaking to Christians on this, but I think some of the points can work for anyone, whatever your faith you're coming from. But think carefully about why you're homeschooling and just who you're doing it for. And for those of us who are Christians, we're doing everything to the Lord, so it's going to come from that vantage point. If not that, you're at least doing it for your children and to see what they're doing. One thing you need to know from the outset is that you've always been your child's teacher. Okay, this child was given to you as the mother, and you have always been teaching your child whether you knew it or not. So if you are taking on homeschooling, that's just another aspect of your child's education that you're already doing. So there's great comfort in that, to know that this child's already been given to you. You already have the responsibility of educating this child. And that should give us a sense of rest, that it's already been given to us. It's not like we're taking on something more. We just might be taking on more aspects of it. So the idea that we are resting in God's provision, if He's given us this child, then He has paved the way for us to be good teachers to that child already, and then in whatever else we might be taking on for the child. She makes the distinction that rest does not equal ease. So if you're thinking that, okay, great, teaching from rest, I'm going to stay in bed all day and let my kids bring me breakfast, and that might happen once or twice. Great for you if it does. But this is not what that's talking about. Teaching from rest is not teaching from ease. It is hard, and it's going to take some work, but it's from a position of rest, okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about that and what that looks like in the 10 minutes that I have with you. It's not ease. It's also not, you're not looking for a rigorous education. We sometimes use that term without really knowing what it means, and she points out that it really means a stiffness. And you talk about rigor mortis, and that's not what you want in your child's education, but a diligence in education. And diligence is a feeling and an affection and a diligent education. So we're looking for restful diligence and teaching from a restful diligence. And so that's not just letting whatever happens. It's not just setting your kids in front of PBS Kids, although there's might be a time and place for that. But that's not what she's talking about. Having a plan, working through your plan, but doing it from a place of rest. And she talks a lot about stewardship, and she uses the analogy of a garden, which God does too in the Bible. The garden is all in the Bible from Genesis to Revelation and in between, and Jesus is always talking about gardening. So if maybe you're one of those who started a garden during this quarantine this spring, you might understand this analogy even better, that we can prepare the soil, we can plant the seeds, we can water, we can fertilize, but it's up to God to give the growth. And we provide the conditions and the child grows. So that's what we're doing as educators. And in that rest, we can be restful in what we have done, but know that the real work belongs to the Lord, and it belongs to our child to take ownership of that education. And that should give us some rest to know that it's not us filling a bucket, okay? It's us lighting a fire, to take from Plutarch. Second part, she talks about the curriculum is not something you buy. And if you have been homeschooling for a while, or if you've just been looking into homeschooling for a while, you'll think, because people are trying to sell you stuff, that homeschooling is all about choosing the right curriculum that will be magic for your child. And yes, you need to be diligent in deciding what curriculum is going to fit for your family. But in the end, it's not the stuff you buy, it's how you teach your child, how you provide that to your child. So curriculum is much more of a how than a why. So take some time to really figure out what curriculum, what philosophies really resonate with you, and what will work best for your family and for your child. And just please be aware that people are trying to sell you things, and that's great. They have some great products to sell. But in the end, you really don't need anything except good books for your kids. Okay, you can teach your kids. Give them good books, teach them to read, and you're golden. Not to say not to purchase these other curricula that are available, because there's some wonderful things out there. Just don't get overloaded by them, and don't get overwhelmed and find that suddenly your sense of rest and your sense of peace is gone because everybody's trying to tell you you can't do it unless you buy their stuff or you join their group or whatever it is. Again, you might choose to do that, and that's great, but don't let it steal your peace and your rest from that. She uses this exercise, which I think is really useful and a little bit scary, to think 20 years from now. Let's say that your child is grown up, a young adult, and is at a party, and somebody finds out that they were homeschooled, and they ask your child, describe what your homeschool was like. What do you want your kid to say then? Think about that. Personally, I would like them to be able to describe it as the atmosphere of the home, that it was warm, it was a time of family togetherness and of good books and of learning together. Think of what you want them to take away from their time homeschooling, even if it's just a short time in your life, if you're just homeschooling for a season. They're not going to remember necessarily the curriculum that you buy, they're going to remember how it was presented. So think through that. And moms, we have a lot to do with the atmosphere in our home, which I'll be talking about in another talk about Charlotte Mason specifically. But really, really think through that in the future and how you want your kid to remember their time homeschooled. Also, be really realistic about your time. We only have 24 hours a day. If God had wanted us to get 36 hours done every day, he would have given us a 36-hour day. He did not. We just have 24 hours. You need to sleep. You need to spend time in your home. You need to provide for meals. There are lots of other things that we need to do as moms, and your kids too. They don't need to be sitting at a desk 24 hours a day. They can't. So be really realistic about what you can do, and build margin into your schedule for that. This is a key to being able to teach from rest. If you think that math is going to take 30 minutes a day, schedule 45 minutes, because you will be interrupted, especially if you have younger children. And those interruptions are life. That is education too. So don't overlook that. Don't be disdainful of those interruptions. That is life, and that is what the Lord has given you to do. And your child will learn more about the way that you deal with those interruptions than the actual lesson that you're working on. And again, just do all that you can to set an atmosphere of peace in your home, and that's going to be mostly mom's attitude. Yes, you can decorate it with all the right colors and all the right wall charts or whatever else anybody wants to sell you. But in the end, sorry, Mom, it's going to be our attitude. So that's a huge part of the peace in your home. The third part of her book was be who you are. You need to know yourself and to know what motivates you and what is going to refresh you as a mom and as a teacher. You might be extroverted and need to be around people a lot and not just your kids. So make sure that you have that built into your schedule too, either on your own or through a co-op with your kids. Whatever that is, make sure that that is part of how you're educating them, because you're going to be a more peaceful mom and be able to teach from rest if you're more rested and refreshed as well. The other part of that is being a lifelong learner yourself, making sure that you are learning yourself. In Charlotte Mason world, we talk about this as mother culture. So be an example yourself of reading and gathering with others to talk about their reading, handicrafts, whatever that is. Show your kids that it can be a lifelong interest and should be, that you're not just educating them from age 6 to 17 and then sending them off into the world to never be educated again. Their whole life is an education. You need to model that as well. So I hope that this very briefly tells you a little bit about Teaching from Rest. Again, get a copy of the book if you can. Again, it's a quick read. Get together with some moms to read it if you can. Discuss it. Again, I'm happy to talk to you about it if we can be connected somehow, either online or in person. Find another mom, even if she didn't homeschool, but a mother who's raised her kids, and learn from her. That is where you'll learn the most, from other women in your life who have raised children and can encourage you in the time that you are. Blessings to you all. Thank you.